Welcome to the show, the other Reykjavík, Hin Reykjavík. Today we're going to be discussing in English. My name is Sanna Magdalena Mörtudóttir. And today during the show we have with us R.E.C, and they have been discussing diversity in the Icelandic community and how we can make the Icelandic community more diverse. And if I just ask you to introduce yourself, if we can go like a circle, just your name and where you're coming from, where you've been, working and what you've been focusing on.
Okay, cool.
All right, yeah.
I wouldn't want to start. I want to know what.
Hi, we're Rec Art. Guess Rebecca's starting because you're.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you were wondering what REC stands for, it's R.E.C. That's the first letter of each of our names because we're so original. But we're wrecking the system. We are recording people's voices and dreams, all the things. I'm Rebecca. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I moved here in the end of 2018. And I'm a performer, a creative artist, and an educator as well. And I'm currently working at Þjóðleikhúsið, performing in a few shows, choreographing, I do a lot of arty things.
All right. Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, then it's the E for Eva. My name is Eva Björk. I'm a carpenter, house and furniture carpenter, with a license to teach. I was teaching in technical schooling for 5 years and decided to take a U-turn and do psychology. So I'm studying that now. I have, a daughter that is in the arts. I have been a lot to the theater and stuff, and Chavi here is my best friend, and we have just discussed a lot about what is lacking in Iceland, and we started thinking, and it kind of just got to this.
Hi, I'm Chaiwe, capital C. There's no C in the Icelandic alphabet, so that's kind of makes Rec Art super cool and kind of like even more memorable. I'm Chaiwe Sól Drífadóttir. I am adopted. I'm from Zambia, adopted from Zambia. I have an Icelandic mom. I'm a first generation Black Icelander, one could say that. I'm in university doing a master's in education. Theater education is my main focus. And I'm currently teaching Icelandic as a second language at Karlsnesskóla in Kópavogur. And I'm a mom to a young little man that's gonna grow up in this society. And I think for me, that's where I'm at, being a mom and being there for my kid. And that led me here to these here wonderful ladies.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of record.
Did you see that? I didn't introduce me and say where I was from.
You didn't have to.
Well, I'm Icelandic. I was born in Reykjavík. No, but that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. You don't
think about it. You don't think about that.
Exactly. I'm Dominican American, so my parents are immigrants. I'm first generation on one side, second on the other. So I have the Latina culture within me.
It's very international.
We both are part of the queer community as well. We identify as part of the queer community.
Are we?
We. I don't know about you.
They're married, by the way.
We weren't supposed to tell them.
I'm an extra.
No. We kind of started. I saw, especially working at the theater, I just saw a lot of not only lack of representation of all of we know a lot of diverse people in Iceland, and I was like, where are they being represented? Where are the people of color? Where are the queer people? Where are the people with disabilities? Where are the immigrants? Where are they on stage? They're all at parties with us.
Bump into them somehow.
And I not only realized the lack of representation, but also the lack of education on why representation is important. So I would be discussing these things with some of my coworkers, and they would be like, oh, I mean, yeah, that's great, but like what, like I never thought of that. Like, oh, okay, like I don't see color.
Yeah,
like that
exactly.
kind of, you know.
There's a lot of like, you know, what do you mean? I don't see color. Like everything is there. But
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's also like, you know, why this was important to us, because we live in a society where people think that something is not happening, but we feel that something is missing. So it's a little bit weird to be sitting there with a person that lives in your own community. You're having the same conversation, but you have completely different perspectives of the life that you're living. That's also very weird.
Yeah, and also it goes deeper than that. Like, I mean, all the stories that are told, they're just like one-sided stories of, you know, people that I wouldn't never want to become. Like, we don't want more people like that.
Not like that. We don't. We don't.
No, but you know what I mean. It's just all the same.
Yeah.
It's always.
So we started actually writing a musical. Like musical theater. Well, we started writing a play, and we were like, oh, we want this to be a musical, and blah blah blah. Just kind of based on a few different stories from our own life, a few stories that people know of, just that are already stories out there. A lot of them were around themes of chosen family, prejudice, diversity, and the divisions in society. And we were like, okay, if we put this up in Iceland, like we want to have a really diverse cast, a diverse creative team, and this and that. And then we were like, okay, how do we get these people together? And we realized,
where
okay,
we find them?
Where are they? We realized we don't only want to share stories from our perspectives, like that's great, but we want to hear what the different minority communities in Iceland, what they're experiencing, and we want to help tell their stories, and we want to both help them tell their stories and help each other tell these stories, because and one of our quotes from R.E.C is, what's missing is diversity not only in who we see on stage, but in what and whose stories are told. So, you know, coming from the positions, the people on the top, who are the directors, who are the writers, who are the people creating these things, not just, oh, let's put a gay character in a show, or let's have like a few Black actors come in and be in this play. It's not about that. It's about the actual stories. And actually, before this meeting, we were talking about the difference between colorblind casting and color aware casting. And they're two very different things. Yeah.
Just and we were also just kind of like, before we started, we were discussing, I mean, there's good, I mean, don't get us wrong, there's so much change that is happening in Iceland. You know, we see that. I mean, you're theater wise, music wise, you know, there are a lot of things going on, but actually advertising. But you know, I was just telling them a second ago that I'm kind of like, I'm not sure how I feel about this advertising that's kind of going on. It's a little bit forced, and kind of like there's a movement that's happening in society where like POC like really matters. And I just feel like the way it's being done in Iceland is just like, all right, fine, this is the movement that's happening. We're just gonna find a Black person and we're gonna put them in a 6 to 6 North commercial. I swear to God, when I first saw that, it was such a good thing. I was like, wow, great. But the more time that I really thought about it, I thought, why is this happening now here? Because, you know, there've been plenty of Black people living in Iceland for 20 years, but nobody has been on a 6 to 6. Everybody was very like blonde, blue-eyed. But at that same time, you have to be like, all right, this is a movement that's happening. We're starting to acknowledge that Iceland is changing, and this is a Black Icelander. So in that, it is great, but at the same time, you think of the underlining issue of why this is happening right here, right now.
Like, is it a story with it?
Yeah, I just feel like maybe it's not genuine somehow.
Yeah, like, is it a publicity stunt?
It's like advertising a show when there's no show. It's just an advertisement.
Just for people listening, maybe I'm not sure that everyone knows, like POC, that means people of color. And then sometimes we use the abbreviations for women of color. Just, I'm not aware if everyone has even heard this before. And when we're talking about like color blindness, maybe we could go a little bit into that. What does it mean to be colorblind, or like examples of color blindness?
Well, it's when you don't have cones in your eyes.
She's the comedian of the group. Yeah. I feel like color, when people say that they're colorblind in terms of race, I guess, or in terms of what people's skin color, how much melanin they have in their skin.
Yeah.
They're kind of saying like, oh, I treat everyone equally. And most people say it in a very well-meaning term, but at the end of the day, you're not acknowledging that certain people don't get treated the same way systematically by society. So that's why the term colorblind can be problematic.
Yeah.
Especially like when white people say it, because it's just like, we know all the history. White people need to have a voice and say things to other white people to educate them. It's like, you know, mans need to fight for women, and white people need to fight for people of color, and, you know, straight people need to fight for queer people. Like, otherwise nothing is gonna happen. That's how it works.
Yeah, and I mean, on the concept, I mean, there's so many different versions of color blindness. I mean, it can be like relationship wise, it could be friend wise, it could be work wise, you know, just like if somebody says, oh girl, I like your lips, you know, like you say that to a Black person, you know, like that's, for me, I see that a little bit as it's kind of like what does that mean? Yeah, and that's also a little bit of the blindness in it, because that person wouldn't necessarily say the same thing. I don't know, maybe they would, but I feel like they wouldn't really say it to a white person or to a white girl to mention that they like her lips or something. Exactly. I get that compliment a lot, and it's super uncomfortable.
I know.
It's very, very
But it's uncomfortable because you know that the majority of the time they're referring to the fact that you're Black.
Yes, and it's never women, by the way, that say you have nice lips. I mean, women are not going around saying that to me. So,
Tyra, you have really nice lips.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So is that color blindness?
Some form of color blindness. Yeah, there's I mean, it's super hard to kind of like narrow down exactly what is. And I mean, it was one thing once upon a time, but as we evolve and things change and there's more integration and migration happening around all over the world, I think the term is more lucid. It's definitely more wide. It's not just like,
I mean, I'm pretty sure that I went through a period of time when I was younger that I said things like that I was color, like I don't see color, because also I'm, you know, I'm face blind. I have a face blindness. I sometimes just don't remember, you know, anything about people. But when you educate yourself, and that's what the goal is for everyone, should be like that, you should educate yourself. You can't be a grown-up talking like that. You have to educate yourself and understand, and especially if a person of color tells you that this is not okay, you should listen to that person and understand, even though you have another friend that says it's okay. It doesn't mean that everybody thinks it's okay.
So like when someone is experiencing racism, that we listen, and instead of saying like maybe, oh, that was just like a really, maybe the person who was, you know, being mean to you was just like having a bad day and being mean to you, we need to address it as racism. That was like a racist incident that happened, not like, oh, that was just, maybe the person was just like having a bad day and that is why that person called you with the N-word. It was just like, you need to address it as racism, not like, oh, the person probably just, you know, didn't see you as a Black person. They were just like, you know, screaming at you because they were pissed at something and let it out on you. I mean, we need to address things for what they really are.
Yeah, right. and that's also why the term, like, we've been using the term microaggressions in our workshops and stuff like that. But I read a blog post recently saying like, it's time to, like, you can still use the term microaggressions to describe certain things, but you have to take the micro out of that. They are racism. It's still abuse. It's still racism. Even if you don't mean to be racist, you can still be like, oh yeah, what I think something really important is for people to say, if they say something and they're called out, or they realize later, they can be like, oh yeah, what I said was pretty racist. Like, I'm sorry, I kind of need to educate yourself.
Stop excusing yourself.
I mean, I think that it's it's very nice the way you explained it, but I mean, the concept of some person having a really bad day and they can just say whatever to me and then just move on about their day, that is very weird. that is also very, very uncomfortable. And for somebody to just kind of dust it under the rug, to be like, oh, no, she was just having a bad day, girl, you just need to move on. Excuse me, you have no idea how this is going to affect me
and how your day was,
how my day was. You have no idea how traumatizing you saying that to me is, how my next 3 days are going to be, the next 3 weeks of, you have no idea. You have no idea how hard I worked to be here today for you to just come and just like say whatever because you're having a bad day, and I just have to be like, oh well, they were just having a bad day. You know,
exactly.
It's kind of like it. I feel like it just goes in circles. It's kind of like racism happened or oppression happened. It's like it happened. White people are having a bad time. We're here in 2022, and I feel like we're still kind of making the same excuses that they just needed to take or say whatever they needed to say. And you know, the Black people are there kind of like being the doormat and kind of, you know, getting punched down because somebody wanted something or they had a bad day.
Exactly. So what are your main goals now with the group? Like, what are you focusing on?
So much.
Creating a family.
So we've started with we had our first workshop last weekend and it went really well. Because of COVID, we've been starting to do our workshops on Zoom, which actually wasn't as difficult as we thought. It's even I feel like it's even more accessible for some people.
Definitely. I mean,
so we had our first workshop, and the first one was about being a person of color in Iceland, and we related it to many different aspects in society, not just art, but we also focused on, you know, representation in art, appropriation, and we had antirasistarnir, wonderful girls as our featured guests, and they were amazing. And a lot of the feedback we got from that was like, it was amazing to just listen to people's stories. And that's our goal, is to not only get people comfortable with telling their stories and knowing that they do have a voice here, but getting other people to really listen to their stories. So we're going to continue having these virtual workshops, and then soon we're going to have live workshops, which the virtual ones they're open to everybody because we want people to come in and learn and listen. But the live ones we were discussing, they are for if you identify as a minority, as somebody in a minority group in Iceland. So that can be person of color, part of the LGBTQIA plus community, an immigrant, a refugee, disabled, a woman, like, you know,
you want to say what it's not about? A straight white man.
A straight cis white man. But it's, you know, it's a place for people, even if they don't consider themselves an artist, even if they do something as a hobby, even if they write poetry on the side, if they do some music, whatever, do little dances, like, we want to create a place. Also, we are all educators, and we want to provide also free, because access is a huge,
right. We feel like there are plenty of people that are, I mean, okay, our main goal, at least for the next 4 months, is we're going to be doing
Listahátíð.
We're working with Listahátíð. We have so we're going to be showcasing our work, and what we're doing right now is kind of the buildup of what we are going to show in, was it in June?
In June 11th.
Yeah, in June. So by collecting people's stories, we're historians right now. We're just getting stories out, and just like we said, because we don't hear these people's voices, we don't know their stories, we don't know anything about them. So we have this platform, and we want their voices to be heard. And this is our short-term goal for the next 3 months, kind of having these workshops, having people to come work with us,
creating art, like little mini vignettes, and like even just, sorry, you go.
No, and then also for Listahátíð, we want to have a showcase, and we want everybody to come to educate themselves, because we are going to have workshops, we're going to have panels, we're going to have like, you know, everybody should be there. So they're not the only races left in Iceland. It's so embarrassing. Like, don't be Don't be that.
That's her tagline. That's what she wants our tagline to be. Come to our show.
I'm
Don't
little
be racist.
I can't be going around saying that. I'm not there yet.
No, but
yeah. So that's our short-term goal. But I think the long-term goal is just to build a community somewhere where people can come and express themselves, you know, like, do you write, do you dance, do you sing, but you haven't had this opportunity. And the fact that all of us are like educators, you know, she's in dance, I'm theater.
I know how to dance.
You know, she knows how to dance. And we want to be able to also use our talents and what it is that we have ourselves to help these people, you know, like in our last workshop, there was a young lady that mentioned that as a POC, as a woman, as a Black woman, they wanted to go into acting, but they couldn't because they didn't see themselves. And
they didn't see themselves
represented on stage. And you're like, there's plenty of kids that are still experiencing that today. And we want these kids to be able to come to us, you know, to have fun. If you want to act like a little princess while you're here, great. You want to drum a little bit, great. We just want to build a community within the community for the people that need that.
Yeah, and I think it's important that, like, you know, even though people are not dancers or whatever, because they can come, they only need to want to do it.
Exactly.
That's enough, because like we have all that people to.
Exactly. We want just people to find each other, you know, to have a safe space to be able to share stories, because I mean, these are people that are within our society, but people are just suffering by themselves. You know, we're all out there with our own experience of racism or microaggression or discrimination of some sort, but like being able to come together and share these experiences and talk them out. I mean, it takes the weight off. And I see this project as something valid because, you know, being Black, Icelandic, growing up, I was kind of like the only Black girl, and I never really had anybody to really talk to understand what I was really going through, you know. So I think of all the young kids today, or just people today that are experiencing the same thing, because I understand the harshness of being here, being different, and not really like fitting in. So if, like, what I would have wanted is kind of this community that we're trying to create right now, where you can just go and you meet another girl and you're just like talking and you're like, I experienced this and they experienced as well. And we laugh it off and we leave and you're like, we shed that skin off like a snake, you know?
And because there are, like, I have done some research, and there are budding, growing collectives like this for youth. There's not much really for adults. And like, yes, we want to have youth workshops and this and that later on, but this right now, what we're doing is mainly geared towards like 17, 18 plus, because that's also when you become an adult, or if you move here as an adult and this and that, and you're just like, okay, where's some place that I can go to? We want to be, we want to bring people together. People are suffering on their own, and
maybe you should also advertise our next workshop that is on Friday.
But this is going to air on Tuesday.
Okay, it's on Friday.
so our next workshop, which when this airs will have been on Friday the 25th of February. The theme for that one is LGBTQIA plus representation in theater, media, Icelandic society, and beyond. So that's gonna be on Friday. And one of the biggest things of representation that like triggered us to also make this and make work that has better representation specifically in Iceland, as we saw at the National Theatre in Kjallarin, Bjarni Snæbjörnsson's one-man show, Góðan daginn fólki. An amazing show. If you haven't seen it, go see it. I'm plugging it right now. And the thing is, it was so beautiful, and it wasn't just about him growing up being gay in the Westfields. Like it was about so much more. He like read diaries of his on stage, and it was about, it was personal. It was like it was so beautiful, and it was just accessible to everyone, and that was the thing. Like you don't have to be gay to identify it. You don't have to be this to identify with it. You can be from any walk in life and have felt like a minority in some way, and you can relate. And we saw that, and we were just like, okay, this is a piece of art that we haven't seen anything like it in Iceland before. And we need more of a community around this regarding representation.
Or felt like that after a
show. Like it was
just very touched after it.
So real.
It was very raw. It was just so real. And also just because it was just himself there, just so vulnerable. And I mean, just, you know, when you're, I don't know if he's in late 30s or 40s, but you're reading your diary that you wrote as a kid, as a teenager, you know, that pain that you feel when you're alone. It's so relatable. It was so relatable. And with that, you just start to think, wow, what more can we do?
Exactly.
What other story can we tell? Is there an asylum out there that's experienced something, this journey from Egypt in a boat to get here? You know, what other stories are there that we need to hear that are happening?
And what was so important is that the whole team was identified as queer, the whole creative team, the director, Greta, the music director, Axel, them as a team. They have all experienced in different ways being queer in Icelandic society and beyond, working in theater, working in the arts, and they were able to come together, and they had the access to this theater, and they were able to make something really beautiful. So, and they are, two of them are going to be our featured guests on Friday. So.
Last
Friday. So, and goal wise, I think one of our actually main goals, like that kind of came to us a little bit later, was once we started to think about everybody in representation and being able to have people to see themselves more visibly. We thought, all right, fine, there are these people, there are plenty of minorities, Black people, Asian people that live within our society. They're super talented, but they have nowhere to go. So we thought maybe we wanted to be an agency for them. We want to be kind of like this hub where people are looking for something specific. If somebody's looking for, I don't know, a Black DJ because they want to listen to specific Black music and not going on Spotify and just playing a playlist, it could be nice to have a real authentic experience and be like, do we have Black DJs? Yes, we do. Where do we find them? Come to us. We can connect you. So we want to be a little bit of mediators for the people.
Yeah, like that came kind of just with it, because we already started to get like people asking, but so we have decided that we are gonna allow this to grow however it grows, if it's convenient for everyone.
Exactly. I mean, we've already had people reaching out like, oh, like I see you guys are working with this and this. I'm looking for a queer artist to represent here, or like because like personally, I have connections in the art industry, in the performance industry here, and casting directors. Oh, do you know a kid who's like mixed race that can play and this and that? And I'm like, actually, yeah, I do. So like, instead of they can actually like come to us as a collective and be like, oh, we specifically want to represent this person in our piece. And do you have somebody?
No, but we also want to be educated for the theaters, so they can learn also what is appropriate and what is not.
Not just the theater, I think just society.
Obviously it will smear out into that, but like also when we are an agency and people are.
We're a little bit, we're into theater, where, like I said, I'm focusing to be a theater education. She's a lot in the theater. So like theater is also like such a main like focus point. That's our like for us. That's our like.
I'm all for the empathy. I just want to teach people empathy. I don't think that is a thing anymore.
No. And I mean, aside from like the whole theater, we just want to use this as an educational platform, where there's so much that we're dealing with, but at the same time, while minority people are having a voice and they're having a good time and they're, releasing a lot of pain, the other side of society is learning. Is learning why this person is suffering, why this person is going through this journey. It's a two-way street. There is no one without the other.
And about not necessarily, about giving, sharing power or giving up power to minority, to people that come from minority communities. So you know, making change in politics, which you're already doing. And it's the whole resisting by existing aspect.
And also it's not necessarily giving anything up, because people have to understand that they're learning so much from everyone. So like, how are you gonna learn something new if you always have the same?
Like, yeah, exactly. I mean, it was Sigmund Freud that said, only an idiot does the same thing over and over again, expecting the same results.
Different results.
Expecting different results. Yes, exactly. I think that is a very deep line right there, because I mean, if our society is, if we keep, you're just living in there and you're just existing, nothing is going to change. Nothing is going to change. You have to be willing to take the step to see that something is wrong. And you don't even have to see that something is wrong, but if somebody's telling you this is what it is, take a moment to be like, just to see what this person is talking about. Don't be so standoffish and just be like, no, I didn't mean it like that. Okay, maybe you didn't mean it like that, but take into account how it made me feel. And that's, I think that's where the empathy comes in when we say that people are lacking empathy. People are just like, I didn't mean it like that. And it's just over. And you're like, well, that really hurt me. Can we take 2 minutes for me to explain why that hurt me without you just kind of like.
No, but that's also the funny thing that like in Iceland, especially, I mean, I hear mostly here from Iceland, white people talk about that there is no racism because they can't experience racism. No. And then also straight people talk about that there is no discrimination against gay people, and like of course you haven't experienced that, like you know,
I once had a straight guy try to explain to me, a queer woman here in Iceland, that no, Iceland is a haven for gay people. Nobody here is homophobic. Everyone has equality here. And like I had no words. Like you, a straight white man, straight cis white man. So slept. So well, I actually later in the night I slept now. No, I mean, but he was like aggressively trying to tell me that there was no homophobia in Iceland. Also, systematically, there was no homophobia or sexism or racism, and I was just like.
But it makes me wonder, like, who are these people that are walking around daily so blind to what is really happening in society? That is the strangest thing.
No, the people that aren't
the majority, the people that are in power, and those are the people that are at the top that just kind of like want to gaslight you and pretend, that's not happening. No, that's not happening. That's not happening. And you're like, but it really is happening. You know, like we say in the National Theater. I mean, it's not happening that they're not really casting people of color or anything like that. So like, it's there. It's right in front of you. It's plays by only white cast people. Directors are white. Everybody's white. I mean,
principals are white. You don't have people in charge anywhere.
I mean, I feel I've taught in a few schools now, and I target specific schools which kind of work with, you know, minorities of some sort. So like Fellaskóla, for example, and I'm in Kásnaskóla now, and I see the happiness or the richness that a kid that is a minority feels seeing me as a Black teacher being there. How they not relate, but I see how they get soft. They feel like they can talk to me, and that's why I'm here. That's why I went into education. I wanted a minority little Black girl, little Black boy, whatever, to see somebody that's different and not the you know, well-known blonde, blue-eyed or like whatever, but to see somebody different and be like, you know what, I am different and I can make it as well.
And maybe they'll end up wanting to be a teacher as well.
Who knows?
Or wanting to be an actor. Or
I mean, whatever, the goal is that you don't experience that you're that much different, that you are a part of society.
Knowing that you can do it, you know, like it's anybody can do it.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, I love it's hard being the only Black teacher every school that I go to, because nobody else there is a Black, it's just me. It's a weird tokenism, but this is the one time that I try to look at it as a positive tokenism for the children, because the children get to experience something good. And at the same time, hopefully when I'm around the older teachers, I can also, through conversation, they can learn something from me.
Of course, and it starts there. Like, it starts with one. And
it starts with one person. All you need is just one person.
Are we all dancing with it?
No, I'm just saying in society.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes.
So yeah.
So important, yeah, to hear these stories, because you're wondering, kind of like, we're all wondering, like, why do people think the way they think? And when people are like, oh no, there's no, you know, racism here, there's no one is homophobic, and you kind of think, like, how do people reach that conclusion? Is it maybe like, is one factor maybe because people never hear about the lives of other people? I don't know, I'm just like thinking out loud. Maybe, I mean, what do we see in the news? What do we see in the talking shows? What do we see in the mainstream media? As you've been talking about, like, who do we see and what stories do we hear about? So maybe that's one part of the issue. I mean, I'm focusing here on just like hearing from people that, you know, wouldn't typically be on the show Kastljós. It's like an evening show, but they've been making some changes. I'm not sure. I mean, glad to see Chanel Björk there. So every time I see a brown or black person in Icelandic TV or advertisement, I'm like, oh yes, it happened. But at the same time, I'm like, was it like natural? Did it happen like naturally? Like, because you're happy, but at the same time, you're like, you don't know how it happened. So you're always kind of aware of this, yeah.
Yeah. And also, you know, how is it thriving in that, you know, place, being the only one? Like, I can only, you know, say from being in the man's field, like, I know how they are. Like, sometimes it will be like, why are you making your life harder than it has to be? Like, why are you here? And you're just like, well, because it pays better, and I have 2 kids that I have to feed, and I'm a single mom. So here's that. But I wouldn't have to excuse it. Why are you here? Why are you making your life harder? Why aren't you working in a bank or something? Like, so I think also that is another thing. Like, you are there, okay, we see it, but we don't know how it is to be that, you know.
The one, like you're saying, the one black teacher or the one
and how
woman.
how are you treated there? Like, is everybody on board? Like you were talking about, like how some teachers always sit together and you know, and because they have taught there for so many years, they'll just not invite anyone new into the group or stuff like that. People need to feel welcome.
Yeah, I mean, like when I think of, you know, stuff like this, I mean, Iceland is also like a very small country, you know, it's, some of it is super ingrained in, like, excuse my language, I might call it a little bit primitive, or like it's a little bit kind of like tribalism or like also kind of like village mentality. It's, you know, there's yeah, it's a little bit like we're best friends, we've been best friends in Leitna, and we just moved together, and it's really hard to weave through kind of, you know, you have friends, but you're like acquaintances in a way. You're not, you know, you don't really get in. And this is something that a few like foreign friends that I have that live here, they're like, they don't have Icelandic friends. They don't have Icelandic friends. And that's very, very sad that we all live here and maybe we work together or live in a similar building and we can't be friends. Why?
I've been listening to a podcast called Inlendingar by these two Inlendingar. Yeah, it's these two women who are I think they're both half Icelandic, but they didn't live here their whole life and then moved here later, one from the States and one from, I think, Norway or the UK. And they were talking exactly about this. They were like, I feel like when I came to Iceland, the majority of my friends are non-Icelandic, or they are like foreigners, because Icelanders have a very much like, yeah, we went to elementary school together, and that's my group of friends, and that's who I hung out with from here to here. Of course, there are exceptions, of course. Like you, yeah, like you and me, you guys. Of course, there are exceptions, and of course, this happens everywhere. Like I still talk to some, like maybe one of my friends from high school, or a few of my, but it's very small town. Like everybody knows everybody. Everybody's, you know, it's the joke, but like everybody's cousins with everybody. But it's true. I see that at the theater, and like, you know, I love working there. I really do. And people are very, very kind and this and that. But
making
it's like
sure she's not fired.
Making sure I'm not fired. No. Love you guys. Yeah. Yeah. What did I just do? No, and the thing is, like I have felt very welcome there. But at the same time, like, you know, you see the same people being cast in this, you see this on TV show, the same people being cast in the same things, and they're all cousins and relatives of this and that happens. I know it happens.
I mean, it's also just in the jobs.
But it's the lack of access to access.
But if you think about that, if you think of people kind of like crewing together, it means that within these groups, people are having the same conversation, they're having the same thought. You're just going around in a circle. It's just a whirlpool of shit.
And they all go to H&M, buy the same. No.
and you don't. And as soon as you don't let somebody in who is different, then you're just living. I mean, you're just kind of like a rat living in your little cage.
Exactly.
You know, you need to bring.
So it's not necessarily.
So that's why you don't know about racism.
Right. Exactly. Because you're just hanging out with your friends. So like you're like, okay, so somebody that is in power, maybe if he or she had an opportunity to hang out with a minority, they could learn from this person. Exactly, and they're automatically, their opinion changes because there you have access. And I think that's what's lacking, the accessibility. But then at the same time, everybody's super closed off. There is no way that we're finding to bring people together.
And art is supposed to bring people together.
Is supposed to bring people together.
And that brings us to rec art. No, but that's like art, like we said with Bjarni's show, like we just all had the three of us come from very different backgrounds, and we all had a very emotional experience seeing the art of somebody's story that also comes from a very different background of us. And he also recognized his privilege within the show. He goes like, you know, I'm very privileged. I'm white, I'm cisgendered, I'm able-bodied, but you know, so like this, so he acknowledged that. And then he also was able to just like be so vulnerable and to bring people together. And that's exactly what we want to do, is to bring people together. And
I mean, everybody wants to be understood also and have a purpose. And that's what we need to create for, or make room for everyone. Like,
I think we need to create a society in Iceland that is really moving with the times and just really reflect the real reality of what you experience as soon as you walk out of your door. You know, you walk out of your door at that red traffic light. What do you see? You see all kinds of people, all kinds of people of color, but just so many races. And that is the reality. We cannot hide from that. That is the real truth. And I mean, for me, I guess maybe I'm just curious, you know, I see a different person and I automatically start to think, who are they? Where did they come from? Where do they live? What is the experience? How do they feel? That's where I go. And I would like for hopefully white people to feel the same.
I mean, don't they ask?
Man, they go like, what are they doing here? I mean, they probably think, but it's a different kind of.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
Whereas mine is like, oh God.
Yeah, no, but that's the beauty of life. Why would we wanna, you know, not accept that? Like, we should be celebrating that. You know how boring it has been here.
No, but like, and saying like back to like that art brings people together is like, okay, at the theaters here, the many like there should be, you know, yes, I know they want to preserve the Icelandic language, great. But there need to be more. Great. No, I'm trying to learn Icelandic. I am learning Icelandic, guys. It's happening. I can sing everything in Icelandic. So, but there need to be more performances, more shows that are accessible to the growing immigrant and foreign national population, just all the growing populations, whether it's a show that's in a mix of, like, I know the one that now moved to Borgarleikhúsið, the group Police. It's like the Polish Icelandic group. The show is in Polish, Icelandic, and English. At least that's what I read.
So cool.
Yes, and like they're like a theater company, and they're doing this, and I think this is amazing. And we need more accessibility like that. And in a way, like you're working to use theater to teach foreign kids Icelandic. We can use theater. I've learned a lot of Icelandic just by working in theater, and just by being on stage. Okay, I have to sing this text. This Icelandic. What does this mean? Okay, how do I? And just using that also to help with language, I think is super important. So art can be used in so many different ways to make people feel included and to bring people together. Yeah,
I mean, I think for me that's also why I went into kind of like theater education. I mean, I started thinking about, you know, the people that will move here, and, you know, how the language was so important. You know, it was always like, you know, it was just like, it was there everywhere. And I started to see the surge of people, of my, you know, just all kinds of people that are moving into the country. And I thought, I was with my mom one day, and she works with kind of like, you know, bringing in refugees and asylum seekers and all of that, and kind of enrolling children into schools. And she went to this one school, and a headmaster kind of said very blatantly, like, yeah, they're just not going to make it. You know, they don't stand a chance. If they don't speak Icelandic, they just don't stand a chance. Han had like a cloud of school. When my mom said this to me, I felt very sad. I felt very, very sad, because I thought of, it was very dismissive somehow, you know, for a principal to think this and just be like, that's it. But you're like, your job should be, how can we help? You know, you can say they don't make it, but what are we doing about it? It's not just enough to just,
and why aren't they making it?
Right. Why aren't they making it? Yeah. So there I was like, this is not good. I went into total panic mode, and I went, all right, I need to save everybody, minority here. I'm going to go to school, and I'm going to learn theater. And now I'm teaching Icelandic as a second language and using theater as a platform, which is, you know, so for me, it seems the language is super important. I mean, communication wise, language, at least for the children to be able to fully access society here, is important.
I also think, like, you know, if that is so important, I feel like they need to have more. No, they need to have a program for people so they can thrive and understand and learn the language. You can't come to a country and then you're supposed to learn the language, but you can't get a job, you can't get a education, you can't learn anything, because there is no program for you to move forward. Like, that doesn't make any sense. And when you have a great education from another country, and you have to go here and be on lowest salary, so you're stuck there, so you have to work all hours, and you can't learn the language, and you can't help your kid in the school. It's just like a cycle. It just goes and goes and goes. It's just all in the little tiny letters, like, welcome to Iceland. Now you're on your own.
Yeah, there's so many things we need to fix. I think, I think I need to invite you again.
You asked us the question in the email, like, what in Iceland, something about like what in Icelandic society needs to change. It's like
everything.
I think this is like a good like final point. Just like we open up the circle, we learn from each other and we listen. And I'm gonna link on your webpage. And this is a dialogue that needs to continue. I mean, we could literally go on and on about this, but unfortunately, unfortunately, we're running out of time today. But we
understand.
But also just thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
And we really appreciate it. And also we just appreciate the work that you're doing. I think it's amazing that we're all here in this society, and there's all like these little groups that are like, you know, are thinking so much about the unsaid or the untold stories that are happening within our society. So,
and we encourage everyone, of course, to come 11th of June to come and educate yourself.
Learn about everything.
And if you identify as part of a minority group, message us, get in touch with us if you want to join our workshops. We'll be advertising our live ones soon, but even before that, just message us. We're here.
We want more people in our family.
We want to wreck the system.
And build it back up again.
Build it
better.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
having us. This was Hin Reykjavík today, the other Reykjavík. Goodbye for now.